Hello, and welcome to Midnight Metal. Robert Meyer Burnett, fucking metal. Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal. Hello, and welcome to Midnight Metal. Robert Meyer Burnett, fucking metal. Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal, Midnight Metal.
I finally made it back. It's been a long time since I've done a Midnight Metal, and they apparently don't want me to do any on the old YouTubes now, do they? Ha ha ha! But I'm gonna do one anyway. Hello there. I'm your host, Robert Meyer Burnett, the Duke of Dope Discourse. Why am I speaking like this? I have no idea. I mean, usually on Midnight Metal, for those of you who don't know, it was a show that began as a lark with Mr. Dave Parker and myself. It's been a long time since anyone has done one, but I figured I've been wanting to do a story. Let's make that louder. I've wanted to do a story about the most unmetal thing ever. And I started the show out I had the whole thing set up with stock prices. I was like, okay, I'm going to do the most unmetal Midnight Metal ever. Of course, technical difficulties, because I hadn't done one in a while. So to be fair, I hadn't updated the software for the show. Couldn't find the mortises that said Midnight Metal. So I apologize for all of you you're here to see something metal, fucking metal. You know, anyone who used to watch this show, it was born out of the pandemic. I hadn't done one in a long time. This, by the way, is Midnight Metal, episode 80. So here's the thing. Money, Paramount, streaming, Hollywood's fucked up business practices. I wanted to talk about all of those things, and I'm going to. Unfortunately, unlike some people, and in the past, I haven't had a drink. And I've got some water. Very unmetal, I know. But I promise you, the show's interesting. So there has been some crazy stuff. If you've been following what's been going on with Paramount, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But let's start out with some stock prices. And let's begin with this. This is Paramount's stock price on the Thursday, February 2nd. Let me make sure I got this right. Okay, Thursday, February 2nd. Now, their stock price closed on Friday, December 15th, 2 days ago, at $16.27. Paramount Global Class B. However, their highest stock price for 2023, as you can see here, $25.25. And that was on Thursday, February 2nd. You can see, I mean, obviously in November they hit their lowest price ever. They've been kind of rallying back up because of all these shenanigans that we will talk about. But let's just say Paramount, a major motion picture studio, was at $25.25 back in February. Now it's down to $16.27. That ain't good. That's more than 33% of their value. They are down. And let's see where they actually were on Friday. Well, 16.27. There you go. I had it there already. That is their year to date. Not good. Not good for the old Paramount. But now, got to give you a little background into Paramount. Now, I'm going to read you a few articles, as you know I would. First of all, so here's I'd like to read you something about a company called National Amusements. I know, strange, right? What is National Amusements? Well, it was formerly the Northeast Theater Corporation from 1936 to 1959. And it was founded in 1936, 87 years ago, in Dedham, Massachusetts. And its founder was Michael Redstone. Yes, you might recognize that last name. And right now, Sherry Redstone is the president. And they own movie theaters. And as of 2017, they had 23,900 employees. And they have a division called Showcase Cinemas. And their subsidiary is, wait for it, Paramount Global. They have 9.7% equity and 79.9% of the voting rights. Here's a little an evolution, a little history. I'm stealing from the Wikipedia. Go there and give them money. They always need money. In 1912, the Famous Players Film Company is founded by Adolf Zukor. 1913, Lasky Feature Play Company is founded by Jesse Lasky. 1914, Paramount Pictures is founded as a film distributor by W.W. Hodgkinson. That was in 1914. Paramount Pictures is founded as a film distributor. 1916, Famous Players and Lasky merge as Famous Players Lasky and acquire Paramount. 1920, Group W forms with the launch of KDK AM. 1927, CBS is founded. 1927, Famous Players Lasky assumes Paramount's name. 1929, Paramount buys 49% of CBS in 1929. 1932, Paramount sells back shares of CBS. 1950, Desilu. That's right, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. Desilu is founded and CBS distributes its television programs. In 1952, CBS creates the CBS Television Film Sales Division. 1958, CBS Television Film Sales is renamed to CBS Films. 1966, Gulf Plus Western buys Paramount. 1968, Gulf and Western acquires Desilu and renames it Paramount Television. 1968, that would be during the what? Say it with me now. 66, 67 was the first season of Star Trek. 67, 68 was the second season of Star Trek. And 68, 69 was the third. And during the second and third seasons of Star Trek, Gulf and Western acquired Desilu and renames it Paramount Television. CBS Films becomes CBS Enterprises. In 1970, CBS Enterprises is renamed to Viacom. 1971, Viacom is spun off from CBS as a separate company. 1985, Viacom buys full ownership of Showtime and MTV networks. 1986, National Amusements, all the way back to the beginning of the century, buys Viacom. Gulf plus Western is renamed to Paramount Communications in 1989. In 1994, Viacom acquires Paramount Communications. In 1995, Westinghouse buys CBS. In 1997, Westinghouse is renamed to the CBS Corporation. In 2000, Viacom buys CBS Corporation. In 2001, Viacom buys Black Entertainment Television Networks. In 2005, Viacom splits into second CBS Corporation and Viacom. They were bifurcated. That's when Star Trek went all to hell. In 2019, CBS Corporation and Viacom remerge to form Viacom CBS. Everybody's brought back together under one roof. And in 2022, Viacom CBS changes its name to Paramount Global. Which leads us now. Is this metal or what? Metal. Corporate acquisitions, mergers, Viacom, CBS, Paramount. Now it's Paramount Global. Star Trek is owned under one place. Now, here's the thing. This is the interesting thing about all of this. Paramount right now is a mess. A mess. And I could get into all of it, but let me just read you again from the Wikipedia. So, National Amusements Incorporated is an American privately owned movie theater operator and mass media holding company incorporated in Maryland and based in Norwood, Massachusetts. The company owns more than 1,500 cinema theaters throughout the United States, the United Kingdom, Latin America, under several brands such as Showcase Cinemas, Multiplex Cinemas, and Cinema Deluxe. It is the controlling shareholder of Paramount Global. The controlling shareholder of this company, National Amusements? How'd that happen? The company was founded by Michael Redstone in 1936 in the Boston suburb of Dedham as National Theater Corporation, operating a chain of movie theaters in the region. In 1959, when the founder's son, Sumner Redstone, joined the company, it was renamed National Amusements. On June 10th, 1987, the company became the majority owner of the original incarnation of Viacom, a former CBS subsidiary syndicating television programs to stations around the United States. Now, coincidentally, in September of 1987, mere months after the company became the majority owner of Viacom, Star Trek The Next Generation debuted. And it was one of the first hour-long syndicated dramatic shows. And at the time, syndicated things were like talk shows and those kinds of things, not one-hour dramas. Star Trek The Next Generation paved the way, and it led to a lot of other different shows on Paramount, such as a TV series version of War of the Worlds and The Untouchables. Since the buyout, Viacom continued to expand through purchases from the early 90s to the early 2000s, announcing plans to merge with Paramount Communications, formerly Gulf plus Western, the parent of Paramount Pictures, in 93, which closed in 94, buying the Blockbuster video chain in 1994, merging with the original CBS Corporation in 2000, and acquiring BET Holdings in 2001. In March 2005, due to Viacom's declining stock price, National Amusements announced that it would split its media subsidiary into two companies that would remain under its control, which was completed on December 31st. The original Viacom became the second CBS Corporation, as it kept CBS, Simon & Schuster, and Paramount Network Television, now CBS Studios, among other assets, while MTV Networks, BET Networks, and Paramount Pictures were spun off to a sister company under the Viacom name. At the end of 2008, due to financial troubles, owners Sumner Redstone and Sherry Redstone sold $400 million of non-voting shares in National Amusements. In October of 2009, the company sold almost $1 billion of its interest in the stock of CBS and Viacom and sold 35 theaters to Rave Motion Pictures, and today these theaters are owned by Cinemark. Blah, 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 blah. In 2019, it was announced that the multinational media conglomerates controlled by National Amusements, Viacom and CBS Corporation, would remerge to form a new company named Viacom CBS. What that did was that brought in the feature film division of Paramount and CBS under one roof again, which means you could make Star Trek movies with impunity, whether that was a good thing or not. I don't know. Now, currently, the company operates more than 1,500 movie screens across the northeastern United States, the United Kingdom, and Latin America under its Showcase Cinemas, Showcase Cinema Deluxe, Multiplex Cinemas, and Cinema Deluxe. In Canada, National Amusements also own Famous Players Theatres through Viacom, which are today now owned by Cineplex Entertainment and Landmark Cinemas. In 2004, National Amusements acquired the Brazilian operations to cinema chain UCI and revamping it to become more in line with Showcase. They also share some of the corporate identities of Showcase and have X Plus and Deluxe rooms in selected cinemas. National Amusements owns a 9.7% equity stake and a 79.9% voting interest in Paramount Global. The company may hold an unspecified stake in Audacity Incorporated as part of the Reverse Morris Trust that spun CBS's radio assets off to that company. CBS Corporation shareholders overall held a 72% stake in the then-named Entercom. Now, Sumner Redstone, who was National Amusements chairman, CEO, and owner, died on August 11, 2020, leaving Sherry Redstone in control. Why am I telling you all this? I mean, I know you're all like bored. You're blazing up. You got a nice spliff cooking. You know, got some dank nugs. Perhaps not, but you might. Who knows? And you're wondering, why am I telling you all of this? Well, because Paramount's a mess right now. You got Paramount Plus, another streaming network. You got Taylor Sheridan. You got them making mediocre Star Trek since 2017. All kinds of things happening. You've got the new Beverly Hills Cop movie, a great Paramount franchise that began, lest we forget, 39 years ago. 2024 is the 40th anniversary of the release of Beverly Hills Cop. Is Beverly Hills Cop AF, Axel Foley? I love that. Beverly Hills Cop AF. Is it coming out in theaters? No. It's coming out on Netflix. Kind of like Dolomite Is My Name and Coming to America too, because they have a deal. Is Paramount and Netflix going to merge? I don't know. But Paramount's a mess. I mean, you can tell from the Star Trek shows they've been cranking out since 2017. They're a mess. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, let me get to the point. There is a battle going on for the soul of Paramount. And I like Paramount because they made The Godfather. They made Chinatown. By the way, where is Chinatown on 4K? To be fair, Paramount, I did get my Rosemary's Baby replacement 4K disc today or yesterday in the mail. Thank you, Paramount. It was the same day they announced on social media they were sending the discs out, and I got mine on the same day. So you go, Paramount Home Video. I like Paramount. I used to work there. Believe it or not, in the mid-'90s, I was hired to be a Star Trek consultant for Viacom licensing. That's a true story. I was. So I'm going to get to the task at hand, but people are... Mark Spector's avatar sends in a tip, says, where can I get a Rob plushie for my wife? Well, Mark, if your wife really wants a Rob plushie, I'll tell you how she can DM me. Maybe she should slide into my DMs and see where that goes. Anonymous sends in a $20 tip and says, contemptuous luck, temperament of foulest spirits, Midnight Metal has just returned. But yes, I am in Canada till Monday's journey. Send me off again. Fay on it. Yes. Fay fooey. Fuck. Good night, Rob. Rather, good morning. It will be 3 in Canada for the show. Well, I appreciate the tip. I really do. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry it's 3. My friend S. Beam says, hey, Rob, how are you? 6-scale bars are all the rage right now. Laugh out loud. Just kidding. Shout out to the chat and the rest of the Post-Geek Singularity and the Imagination connoisseurs. John Armstrong Music sent in a super sticker and some support. Thank you. Joseph Michael sends in a chat. I guess that's a super chat. Hashtag pray for Pixar. You know, I pray for the entire entertainment business. I think here's what I think. I think everybody needs somebody like Jason Blum. I think all of Hollywood needs people like Roy Lee to keep finding these great scripts and making them for $5 million. Movies that cost $5 million, they turn around, they make $50 million or $100 million or $150 or $200 million. Scale the business back. That's all I can say. My friend Sonny Dominguez, who is the king of squirting, says, any thoughts regarding Mark Waid being called part of the cancel pigs due to his response to Mark Miller? Sad that emotional response trumps facts. Okay. I am not aware that Mark Waid was being called part of the cancel pigs due to his response to Mark Miller. Here's the thing, Mark Millar. I'm a big fan of Mark Miller. I have a lot of his comics. In the comic book world, of course, there's a lot of people that have bad things to say about both Mark Millar and Mark Waid. I would say this. I don't know what's going on, but I appreciate Mark Miller for bringing on that comic book retailer who was very upset. He talked about the identity politics that's being injected into comics. Look, I find a lot of modern superhero comics to be abhorrent and basically unreadable. Like, you know, if you can't really see, but I mean, if you look down around me on the second to the bottom tier, I mean, I am surrounded by probably, I don't know, 10 grand worth of, I would say, yeah, probably 10 grand worth of Marvel omnibuses. And I've got comics everywhere. I've loved comics my whole life. And, you know, that retailer that went viral who said, look, stop injecting yourselves into comics. You know, it's funny. People talk about Mary Sue's. And to me, the Mary Sue phenomenon began with Star Trek fan fiction. And then officially published Star Trek novels like Diane Carey's Dreadnought, where authors would write proxies of themselves into their stories and they would interact with the crew and save the day. To me, that's what a Mary Sue was. Rey in the Star Wars sequel trilogy was not a Mary Sue. It was not a self-insert by the author. And I think that the idea of what a Mary Sue was has been muddled. The idea for me, and I would say a classical definition of what a Mary Sue is a character that is an author or filmmaker, I guess, insert into the story. And that Mary Sue is the bestest ever, as some YouTubers would say. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And that's true, but it's usually because the author is doing some kind of wish fulfillment fantasy in the story that they are writing. That, to me, is what a Mary Sue is. Rey was not a Mary Sue just because she can do everything great. That was, to me, the defining characteristic of a Mary Sue is it has to be an author insert. And I don't think that J.J. Abrams it's not about gender swapping or making a hero that is what he wants the hero to be. The problem that I have with the character of Rey is, and I've had these arguments with people that want to defend Star Wars to their dying breath, which is fine, and I appreciate that. But the fact is, Rey, I thought, was a poorly drawn character. You know, she's living in the wreckage of an AT-AT, but she can fly the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo can. And it's so funny because I'm like, in Star Wars, you have many people. You see Luke's T-16 Skyhopper behind him in the garage. You hear he's going to pick up some power converters. Ben Kenobi says, I've heard you've become a great pilot yourself. Yada, 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 yada. Anyway, so that's what Mary Sue is. But I think that comics today, I mean, until Hickman came and did Powers of X and House of X and Powers of 10, or Powers of X, I don't know exactly what it all is. I mean, I guess it would be Powers of 10 because of Moira. But I don't know ultimately the Millar stuff. Is it Millar? Miller? I always said Mark Millar, but maybe it's just Mark Miller. I like Mark Millar. I've met him. I think he's a good guy. So, I don't know Mark Waid being called a cancel pig. Look, I think the pendulum is swinging back because we're seeing that identity politics and all of these social justice warriors, performative activists really don't follow through. So we knew that was coming to an end soon. But John Armstrong music, I think I already said thank you for that sticker. Efren Guzman says, what do you think about the Film Bros? I don't know what the Film Bros are. Is that a new group? And I don't know. Efren, I don't know. What are the film? I'll have to look it up. Benzins says, hey, Rob, why is Condor Man not on Disney Plus? That is a crying shame. Why isn't it on Disney Plus? There are many things that aren't on Disney Plus, and I don't understand why. Condor Man, which, by the way, I saw in the theater, should be one of them. I know it's not great, but it should be one of them. I don't know. I honestly don't understand where's all the Touchstone movies? Where's all the Hollywood Pictures movies? Where's the 4K of Blood In, Blood Out? I don't know. Ruthless People, Down and Out in Beverly Hills. I don't know where these things are. Maybe one day we'll have them. Tom Jr. Jackson says, when do we get a studio tour and whining? Tom, soon. I'm caught up on Super Chats and tips. Tip links at the bottom. Super Chats, you know how to do it. Now let's get into what's going on at Paramount because it's fascinating. Obviously, we've shown you that the stock price for the year is down. In case you're jumping in now, let's start here. The stock price was $16.27 on Friday when the markets closed. But if you can see here on the left, the highest stock price of the year was Thursday, February 2nd of 2023, and the stock price was $25.25. And yesterday, as you can see on this chart, it was actually sneaking back up. But still, on what we see here, and let me get the proper date, it was $16.27 on Friday, December 15th, down from its high of $25 for the year. That's not good. I mean, you're down way more than 33%. It's not a good thing. Not a good look. Paramount's not doing well. So, which is a bummer. And I like Paramount. I don't like to see them ailing like that. But, so here's how I wanted to read a couple of articles about what's going on with Paramount. I was going to do this as Robservations, but I'm like, I've been so exhausted and crazy shit's happening. So here it is. Paramount Studios isn't for sale, but control of it is. The negotiations and the power struggle. Explained. This is from IndieWire on December 12th. Tony Maglio wrote it. The only Paramount Global asset that buyers want is the studio. The cheapest way to control it is actually, if you want to control Paramount, you have to buy National Amusements, which I just went through the whole history of it. So if you didn't watch it, go back. But it's a great article. Imagine you want to buy a car. However, the dealer tells you that the car isn't for sale. Instead, they offer another option. You can't own the car, but you can buy the dealership. And with it comes the right to control all the cars on the lot. Such is the unusual scenario presented to would-be buyers of Paramount Studios. It's among the many assets of Paramount Global, which include CBS, Paramount Plus, and cable channels like BET and Nickelodeon. The studio can't be bought on its own, and buying Paramount Global as a unit would cost in the neighborhood of $30 billion. However, you might be interested in buying National Amusements. The Redstone, Sumner Redstone, now Sherry Redstone, family-owned movie theater chain that also holds about 77% of Paramount Global's voting shares of stock. and it's available for a few $1 billion. National Amusements president Sherry Redstone likely knows she should have gotten out of Paramount when the getting was good, or even decent. Since she remerged Viacom and CBS in 2021, the company's stock price has been cut in half. At first, reported by Deadline and Puck, National Amusements held talks with David Ellison's Skydance Media, backed by private equity firm Redbird Capital Partners. Now, who is David Ellison? David Ellison is one of Larry Ellison's kids. There are two that made a big splash in the entertainment business. There is David Ellison, and there is Megan Ellison. And Megan Ellison founded Annapurna Pictures. And go look up Annapurna. They've made some very respectable movies, have not made a lot of money. Now, from what I understand, if I remember from my reading, so Larry Ellison gave both David Ellison and Megan Ellison like $600 million each. And that could be wrong, so don't take that to the bank. But basically to start getting involved in Hollywood. David Ellison, who I've never met, I came close to working with him at one point. Their company was very interested in my comic book that I self-published. It's actually right, where'd it go? It's right there, Living in Infamy. We were this close to getting green light for a TV series, but it didn't happen. But anyway, so David Ellison's Skydance is basically Paramount Features' de facto money, de facto bank. They arrange for most of Mission Impossible is a Skydance project. The Star Trek movies are Skydance. The Jack Ryan franchise, meaning the TV shows and the movies, are Skydance. Jack Reacher, because they made the Jack Reacher films, they own that part. They own the Lee Child books. The new Jack Reacher Season 2, which I'm through episode 3 of, which I've enjoyed. They call it dad fiction. Jesus Christ. That's also Skydance. So Skydance is basically financing everything that Paramount's doing. As first reported by Deadline and Puck, so it would make sense that Skydance officially takes over Paramount, and David Ellison would be the head honcho. Because David Ellison, by all accounts, I've never met him again. He's supposed to be a great executive that loves movies. He doesn't just have deep pockets. He really loves the business. He loves the business, and he loves what he makes. So good on you, David Ellison. But anyway, at first reported by Deadline and Puck, National Amusements held talks with David Ellison's Skydance Media, backed by private equity firm Redbird Capital Partners, and a source close to the talks described it as, to IndieWire's, kicking the tires rather than an active negotiation, which means they're looking into it. Thing is, a company like Skydance doesn't want TV stations. They probably don't want BET. They don't want Nickelodeon. They don't want any of that other stuff. They want the studio and the assets, but it's all kind of a package deal. So what do you do? On Monday, the Wall Street Journal reported similar talks between National Amusements and Activision CEO Bobby Kotick. The New York Times reported Sunday that Redstone also discussed a deal earlier this year with Netflix, Apple, and Amazon, among others, new school tech giants that would love an old school studio and for which money is no issue. Reps for Skydance and Redbird and National Amusements declined comment, and Activision Blizzard did not respond to our request for comment. Any deal which centers entirely on an okay from Sherry Redstone would give the buyer control over Paramount Global, but it would not give them Paramount Global. Sherry Redstone, 69, is the daughter of the late media mogul Sumner Redstone, who leveraged his own father's regional theater chain into a controlling interest of Paramount Global. The Redstone family and its trust, run by Sherry, only owns about 10% of actual Paramount Global. Up to this point, Sherry has been reluctant to sell, just like Dad. But these are not Sumner's good old days. She has the final call on Paramount Global corporate decisions, like choosing its CEO and board of directors. Most relevant here, she gets to decide which Paramount assets stay and which go. A deal for National Amusements is a matter of Paramount control, not ownership, because they own a majority of the stock, which is wild. Although Sherry might not want to offer actual Paramount ownership, last month Paramount Global updated its senior leadership's golden parachutes in the case of acquisition. If Paramount gets bought and CEO Bob Bakish is ousted, he now stands to receive $50 million plus benefits. Bakish has personally been signaling Paramount is for sale for a while now. Why not? 50 million plus bennies? Come on, brother. I get it. You want to sell the mountain. Wall Street Journal also reported today that Paramount Global has discussed laying off more than 1,000 workers early next year. I mean, we already heard Hasbro laid off a bunch of workers because kids, they just don't like Star Wars toys anymore. I wonder why. The kind of balance sheet weight loss that makes an asset more attractive to buyers. Reps for Paramount Global declined comment on the story. A spitball estimate from Bill Cohen of Puck places Sherry Redstone's stake in National Amusements in the $2 billion range. National Amusements is a privately held company, which place any and all estimates firmly in the spitball category. The number is very doable for David Ellison and Redbird, which we're told has $10 billion of assets under management. However, as Cohen pointed out, that begs the question of why they'd want its troubled movie theaters and debt in exchange for basically decision-making. Analyst Rich Greenfield of Lightshed Partners suggested on Tuesday that just going after Paramount voting shares, if Sherry would go for that, which he estimates would cost $1 billion plus. Like the rest of us, Sherry's not getting younger. Unlike the rest of us, she has a multi-billion-dollar trust fund to consider for future generations of Redstones. The usually private executive has popped up more in public since the October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel. Her future now seems more about philanthropy than media. There's a decent chance a deal is done as we think the Redstone Trust may be ready to move on from operations to monetization. Stephen Cahall, an equity analyst at the bank Wells Fargo, wrote in a Monday note distributed to clients. There's Paramount. At $2 billion, give or take, buying National Amusements would be a relative bargain. Wells Fargo pegs Paramount Studios, its crown jewels, as worth $19 billion. Its linear assets and distribution platforms, properly separated, would ultimately add up to $13.5 billion. And CBS alone is worth $5 billion of that. Even David Ellison and Redbird don't have that kind of capital to throw around, not that they'd want to. We don't think strategic buyers are interested in Paramount as a whole, but rather just its studios. Cahall wrote. Greenfield concurs. The problem is we do not see any obvious strategic buyers who would want all of Paramount, he wrote in a Tuesday note. Yeah, because the business is for shit. But the studio, come on now. Same, since both Sherry Redstone and Paramount know that selling its studio, even at a premium, would place its remaining assets in the bargain bin. Private equity's plan is Paramount Global's death sentence. Of all the assets Sumner Redstone could never part with, the movie studio was non-starter number one. Sherry appears to be honoring that wish. The Wall Street Journal said she's adamant Paramount Pictures not be sold on its own, and a buyer of Paramount Global would still have the Sherry issue, albeit to a lesser degree. Her board and the non-voting shareholders would have to approve a deal. It may be trickier to navigate the FCC, which also gets a say. Financially, Comcast could buy the whole damn thing today, and Peacock would pluck itself for Paramount Plus's subscriber members. However, the government would have a real problem with a company like Comcast or Disney, which respectively own broadcast networks NBC and ABC, swooping in on that one that owns CBS. Skydance doesn't have the two-network problem, nor does fellow potential suitor Warner Brothers Discovery, but Warner Brothers Discovery is in an M&A timeout until April. That's a mergers and acquisitions timeout. They should be, because their stock price, not so good either. No matter who the theoretical buyer, Greenfield advises to wait on a Black Friday deal. If you like Paramount at $15 a share, you'll love it at $7. What is the rush to buy Paramount now, especially if you're a financial buyer? He wrote, all signs point to legacy media worsening as we move into 2024. But bam. Unfortunately, legacy media is dying on the vine. We're in the Wild West when it comes to making content. What the hell's going on? Who knows? Suffice to say, Paramount's a mess. It's in a bad place. Not good. David Crabtree writes in and says, hello, Sir Rob. I know I haven't been as vocal lately, but I'm a city planner, and that keeps me very busy. However, I never miss a show of yours. Cybermech is on hold, but it will be finished. Cybermechs is David Crabtree's former USMC, for his comic, his Transformers-inspired comic that he was doing. Really cool art. Oh, man. Okay. So that's very cool. I didn't know you were a city planner. Congratulations. Stubble McShave, by the way, says, Midnight Metal is back. Oh, no, it's just soft rock at night. Come on, man. Soft rock at night? You know, I wanted to do something cool. I thought I'd talk about Paramount. I do, however, have this jug of wine. I know. I couldn't do Midnight Metal without a mason jar, an entire bottle of red wine here. Decanting, as it were. Trent Holtzman says, Rob, you're a stud. What hot toy is next for you? I'll tell you. My next hot toy is going to be Wolverine. I have every Wolverine hot toy. I have 4 Wolverine hot toys. A 5th one was just released. The 1970s version of Logan from X-Men Days of Future Past, which is interesting because I have the last X-Men figure that Hot Toys released was the Wolverine in his future Days of Future Past costume. So that 70s Wolverine's a banger. Got to get that. And let's face it, I mean, when Wolverine was back in, when he wakes up in the 1970s, he did some banging himself. Not so bad. So that's my next hot toy, Trent. I really shouldn't be spending money before Christmas. It's been tough, but what can I do? Culture Wars Diplomacy is here. Says Daisy Ridley's performance was fine. The story made her lame. I agree. Xena was a powerful fantasy, but she was well planned, performed, and written. Oh, I agree. It's all about the writing, people. Never put your agenda before your characters and stories, and nor should you put your universe before your characters and stories. It's true. Shogun Orta says Paramount, Disney, Warner Brothers studios going under or getting bought. Also, who buys them? Apple, Universal, etc. will risk being monopolies. Does this have to do with movies getting so pricey, consolidating resources? Shogun Orta, that's a great question. Here's the thing. The biggest change, what I've seen in the movie business, so personally, I left USC in 1989, senior year of college, left, and I was out for a couple weeks, and I got a job working on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Spent the entire summer of '89 working on that film. First movie I worked on as 22. As the Klingons say, it was glorious. First time I got a screen credit, Robert Burnett right there. I was the art department assistant. As soon as that was done, I was hired by Bill Young, his department. He was the senior vice president of physical production at Warner Brothers. So I was literally working. I was a management trainee. I was working for the senior vice president of physical production, meaning we were in charge, our department was in charge of overseeing the physical production of movies at Warner Brothers. No, we weren't like we were as we always said, we're the people that work for a living, as opposed to taking meetings with writers. So the people like when I was there, it was Bob Daly and Terry Semmel that ran the studio. Mark Canton was in the big office. Bruce Berman, Lucy Fisher, Alan Stewart, Bob Brassel, and Tom LaSalle were there. Courtney Valeni was in the story department. It was quite a place, legendary. I met Mario Van Peebles once, and I told him, dude, I love New Jack City, and I loved your episode of Wise Guy that you directed. And he was like, no one knows I directed an episode of Wise Guy? I said, I do. This was pre-IMDb. It was a great time. But what was really interesting was Motion picture studios in 89, 90, it was a great business. Home video was booming. But we were making movies for the domestic marketplace. There was not, I mean, movies were released internationally, yes, but usually by international distributors. And Warner Brothers could make, when I was at Warner Brothers, they made movies like Doc Hollywood and My Blue Heaven and Clint Eastwood's The Rookie and Bonfire of the Vanities and Nothing But Trouble and Gremlins 2 and Joe versus Volcano. And I was on the set of all those movies, Defending Your Life. It was a great time, let me tell you. To be 22 and working at a movie studio and actually having an office in the executive arm of Warner Brothers, I mean, yeah, it was behind the coffee maker, but still, it was pretty great. Not gonna lie. But the movies that were happening there at that time were made for the domestic marketplace, so the budgets were reasonable. You know, you still were making movies for movies in the millions in the teens. You know, a big budget movie would be all the way up to like 1999. The Matrix, the first Matrix, I wasn't there then, but Lorenzo de Bonaventura was, I believe, and he started when I was working at Warner Brothers. That was like a $65 million movie. So The Matrix was a $65 million movie. That was in, what, 99? So movies hadn't got exorbitantly expensive, but now the movies that the studios make, the studios aren't making like Hunt for Red October for $30-odd million. They weren't making, you know, all the thrillers that they made and adult-oriented dramatic films. Everything they're doing is spectacle, IP. You know, Warner Brothers made Barbie. It made almost 1.5 billion. That's the entire business model of the motion picture industry from a studio perspective, because they're owned by larger corporations and Wall Street. They want constant growth and they want all this money being made. I think that to apply that kind of logic to a motion picture studio is stupid. I don't know anything about finance, but let me tell you what I would do if I was a bean counter at the studios. I would be making sure that a motion picture studio is slow and steady. That, you know, your operating cost should be like $5 billion and you're bringing in 20. I'm just pulling that out of the top of my head. But this mentality of shooting or trying to hit across the left field fence the whole time is kind of dumb to me. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I would much prefer the Blumhouse model. Let's make movies like Invisible Man for $8 million and have it gross over $100 million worldwide. Let's make Smile, you know, a movie that costs less than 20 and it makes over 200 million worldwide. If you were to make 20 of those movies, now I know it's not like one Avengers Endgame that makes almost $3 billion. And you had all that time, 23, or actually it was at the time 21 movies before Endgame that teed it up. But what we want is great entertainment. And great entertainment finds an audience and it sells. What we're getting now is between corporate product and agenda-driven storytelling and the fact that you've got Vanguard and BlackRock talking about DEI and all this crazy stuff that they're trying to curry favor with, you know, social engineering, whatever their programs are. It doesn't work. Doesn't work. You know, you got to, as always, if you're going to make entertainment, you have to make it good. A great story, well told, will win every time. Now it's hard. It's hard in the marketplace. There's so many different things, but that's really what's happened. Is the business has changed. All movies now are between the studio movies are between 150 and 250 million or something, and they're looking for that $1 billion gross. And how many films actually get there? You can't live on tentpole properties alone. What I think a good business would be to make movies for like 30, 40, $50 million and get on base, get base hits. If a $50 million does $250 million return, that's good. You know, it's not $1 billion. You got to make more money, but what do you expect? What are you trying to do? I mean, is Warner Brothers in a great place? Look at that stock position. Paramount's their Axel Foley is going direct to streaming. That was one of the biggest movies of 1984. It's a huge franchise, despite the horrific Beverly Hills Cop 3. Still, money-making franchise, and it's going to Netflix. It's not even
I mean, I would like to see Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop, the original, is one of my favorite action comedies of the 80s, and it still works really, really well. Not going to theaters. How does that happen? I don't know, Shogun. That was a long, roundabout way of answering your question, but I want to thank you for asking it. David Crabtree says, I am about 50% done with the Cyber Mech Saga. That's his comic. The script is done. The artwork is what's taking my time. I'm not going to half-ass it, but it's currently on hold till I can dedicate my time to finishing it. Forever reign, Lord Zardox. You know what? I'm right there with you. Lord Zardox should forever reign. I have no problem with that. David goes on to say, Rob, thank you for being you. I'm a conservative Republican who voted for Trump twice, yet I wouldn't want to change an ounce of your ideology. That's what makes you, you. Yes, people, I'm a diehard old-school Trek fan who is also a Republican. Well, here's the thing. Here's what I, as an American, and our predominant parties, the Republican and the Democratic Party, I just appreciate people, hey, we might be on opposite sides of the aisle, but if you pay attention to politics and you're thoughtful, you have reasons for voting the way you vote, I respect that. You know, I don't, it's not 100%. I mean, to be fair, I'm a registered Democrat. I consider myself a classical liberal, but there's a lot of wackiness and a lot of common sense that has been denied by the Democratic Party. And some of the things that they're doing are not working. Like, how they're dealing with drug addiction and mental illness in our major cities. It's not working at all. And you wonder, guys, are you not seeing this? Because everyone else is. David Crabtree also goes on to say, I've got a detailed, he sends in a tip. I've got a detailed letter coming your way soon. It's about Dazed and Confused and why it's my favorite movie and how it impacted me as a high school freshman when it was released. All right. I got to tell you, I love Dazed and Confused. Criterion released it in 4K. Looks beautiful. That is one of the great modern hangout movies of all time. Between the music, between the characters, I love Dazed and Confused. It's great. It's a good choice. I wholeheartedly approve. Let's see if I'm missing someone else. No, I think I got everything. I have another article that I want to read about this Paramount situation. And I'll flat out tell you. And this was published on Friday, December 15th of this year, so 2 days ago. Lest we forget, let's go back in and check with Paramount stock price on December 15th. $16.27 a share. I guess it's only down 4.69% is year to date. Wait, this got to be more than that, right? I guess it might have started lower, but still not good. Anyway, so this article in the Hollywood Reporter on Friday by Alex Weprin says, for sale sign on Paramount will shape Sherry Redstone's legacy. The entertainment company that everyone in Hollywood is talking about is based in a nondescript 3-story office building in the Boston suburb of Norwood, Massachusetts. Nestled between an indoor ice skating rink and a Home Depot distribution center is the headquarters of National Amusements, Incorporated, a movie theater operator with 22 cinemas in the U.S., almost all in the New York to Boston corridor. But it's not the movie theaters that have investment bankers, media moguls, and opportunistic private equity firms salivating. National Amusements, the pride and joy of the media titan Sumner Redstone, and now controlled by his daughter Sherry, serves as a holding company for the family's most precious asset, voting control of Paramount Global, the owner of CBS, Paramount Plus, Paramount Pictures, Nickelodeon, and other media brands. Paramount, or at least control of Paramount via National Amusements, now appears to be on the block, with Redstone reportedly working with banker Brian Trott to figure out next steps. Among those kicking the tires is another scion of a mogul, David Ellison and Skydance, which is working with Gary Cardinal's Redbird on evaluating a potential deal. A precarious financial position for both Paramount and National Amusements could have played a role in the timing. The state of play at Paramount was laid out in stark terms December 5th as a panel of credit analysts weighed in on what they are thinking about for 2024. Paramount, S&P Global analyst Naveen Sarma noted, now had a credit rating of BBB minus, the bottom end of what we would call investment grade. Yeesh. That's because of Star Trek Discovery. I blame the entirety of all this on Star Trek Discovery and every other Star Trek show in the Kurtzman era. Yes, even Lower Decks. Lower Decks is a farcical parody. But there's joy to be had in that. But what can I say? Not as much as you got from the original series. And National Amusements had faced issues of its own. The movie theater business, after all, has not had a good few years. In May, Trott's BDT and MSD partners took a $125 million preferred equity investment in National Amusements. In September, National Amusements sold additional shares and warrants and restructured some of its debt. Skydance and Redbird are far from alone should the Redstone stake in National Amusement or Paramount as a whole hit the block. The company's distress has also been top mind for John Malone, the cable tycoon and Warner Brothers Discovery Board member. We're headed to a period of distress, the streaming conversion and disruption, the fact that rates are now high, that a lot of maturities are approaching. Malone told investors in his Liberty Media at the company's shareholder meeting November 9th, there will be opportunities presented by distress, and companies that have got dry powder or some kind of currency will find synergistic consolidation opportunities in that distress. Anyway, you know, as you look at this stuff, as you read these articles, no one is ever talking about, gosh, we just want to make good movies. It's all moguls wanting to tear things apart and make extra money. But in the meantime, you know, it's funny to think that our motion picture studios are being just carved up and thought of as investment opportunities, and no one's talking about the great legacy media that these people provided for the last 100 years. The great movies that Paramount made. I mean, Hitchcock made movies at Paramount. The Godfather movies are Paramount. Obviously, Chinatown. Friday the 13th is Paramount. Star Trek, of course, Paramount. So many good Paramount. The Bad News Bears. That Paramount is licensing their movies to Kino Lorber to put out on disc. They don't even release them themselves. They made a mistake on the Rosemary's Baby 4K disc. It's not good. Paramount not having a good year. It's just sad. It bothers me. And I think that if they did some more good business, then maybe they wouldn't be in such a pickle. June Wong says, hey, Rob, I think it's June. Is that June? Is that how your name? Hey, Rob, can I send you a copy of my comic book to the Post-Geek Singularity P.O. Box? I would rather you send it to me directly, which we should talk to offline. DM me on Twitter. Slide into my DMs. Remind me, and I'll give you an address. You can get it to me directly. Be happy to do that. Shogun Order comes back and says Paramount, Disney, Warner Brothers studios going under or getting bought. Also, who buys them? Oh, I already read this, but I don't think I really answered it all. Yeah, well, we did answer that, but let's get back into that since I already answered that too. I mean, at the end of the day, here's the problem. The way I see it is that the moguls of yore loved making movies. They loved telling stories. You know, they came and started Hollywood specifically. Now, none of the people that run these studios love movies. They don't even love the product that they're making. You know, it's just yet another business deal. Let's put it together. And it's really depressing to me. And you wonder, like, why bother? Why do it? You know, all of us, we want, I would imagine all of you who are watching this right now are imagination connoisseurs. By the way, let me tip my mason jar full of wine to all of you imagination connoisseurs. Hip, hip, hooray, and hope you have all happy holidays. I appreciate you all watching this channel. Like, subscribe. I never say that, but I'm saying it now. I lost a lot of subscribers lately. I understand. I opened my mouth, but what can I say? I'm always opening my mouth. But, you know, here's the thing. obviously, all of us imagination connoisseurs who love movies and comics and video games and TV shows and all that, we all want the same thing. We all want great stories, as Stephen King would say, great stories well told. And it's strange that we now live in a world where I always say that Burnett axiom is don't put your universe before your characters and your story, and the same is true of like your agenda. I was talking about this earlier on a different stream, on Six Scale Mafia stream, Toy Stream we do on Saturday nights, and I was talking about someone like Rod Serling. So Rod Serling created The Twilight Zone, and the original Twilight Zone ran on television on CBS from 1959 to 1964. And during that time, they dealt with lots of issues. Hard-hitting anti-racism, anti-war, all kinds of things. But you couldn't get away with that on TV at the time. So Rod Serling created The Twilight Zone. You know, if you wanted to do a hard-hitting episode like The Purple Testament or something, or the heavy-handed, didactic, but still memorable The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, or The Shelter, you know, The Twilight Zone, by the way, if you want to write or learn anything about storytelling or just understand how great stories are told, I'm not saying that every episode. I think there's 157 classic Twilight Zone episodes. So there's seasons 1, 2, and 3, and season 5 are half-hour episodes, and season 4 was the hour-long season. And those Twilight Zone work better in the half-hour format. But there's some bangers in the hour-long episode. On Thursday, We Leave for Home. Makes me tear up every time. But if you want to know how to write, and you want to understand how to tell a story, Twilight Zone is a great way to learn, because in basically a little less than a half an hour, they have to set up a character and a premise, or characters and a premise, and make you understand them, and then tell you a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end within a half an hour. And you don't have recurring characters. It's an anthology show, so every week is different. You know, it is a master class, the very best episodes. And not every episode of Twilight Zone is fantastic, and Rod Serling had a tendency to repeat a lot of his predilections or something but still, it's an amazing feat of television. And I know, well, Rob, it's black and white. I just can't. I'm like, dude, handle it. Everyone loves the Twilight Zone. Just go to BuzzFeed. And, oh my God, I can't believe I just told you to go to BuzzFeed. Or just do a search. What are the 25 best Twilight Zone episodes? And if you didn't grow up watching Twilight Zone marathons on Thanksgiving or whatever, now's the time. And if you can find it streaming, great. I think it's streaming. It should be streaming on Paramount Plus, I would imagine. Or, you know, get the beautiful Blu-ray set, because it's amazing. They remastered it's black and white, but they remastered all the episodes. It's incredible. It looks incredible. So get it. But it's a great lesson in storytelling. As you notice, when all the mergers and acquisitions are going along, no one's talking about, let's make great movies and great television. Let's entertain the world. No, they've allowed big companies like I said, Vanguard and BlackRock, and their whole mandate to, we're going to go after DEI. That does not do good for storytelling. You know, great storytelling is very pragmatic. It deals with the real world. The best stories, even the best fantasy stories. One of the things I like to say is the best fiction, all of your favorite fiction, has to be truthful. Truthful fiction is the best kind of fiction. Because if you believe the fiction, because it has so much truth in it, then it works. And I think right now, as people are trying to inject too much of their own reality, their own personalities, and it's a weird thing now. I don't remember living in a time where people actually, especially people in the arts, thought that they're like, well, I have to make sure that you feel and understand the message that I'm putting forward. I mean, it should be inherent in whatever it is you're making. And I think that's become a big problem. And it's not, like I was talking again about this earlier, I don't think, like, one of the greatest shows on TV right now, one of the show that I love the most is For All Mankind. It has dealt with racism. It has dealt with LGBTQ issues. It's dealt with all the litany of what you might call woke. I haven't heard one person who watches that show, my favorite show on TV, For All Mankind, call it woke or get upset about, representation and why is it shoving this down our throats? Because it's not shoving things down your throats. It's an alternate history show, so it's extrapolating on things that happen in the real world and condensing them down and putting them into their format. And what's so great about For All Mankind is it just has respect for everyone. As my friend Bill Hunt said, he said, even when there's people you don't even like, but they're trying to do the right thing. And a lot of the time, the great thing about For All Mankind is, depending on your point of view, everybody's trying to do the right thing, but sometimes they're at loggerheads. And the show is very, very, very smart the way that it deals with that. And that's why it's satisfying, because you feel like, oh, it's dealing with issues, but not in a heavy-handed way. It's first and foremost human. It's a show about human beings and how they react in these situations. And some people are old school, like Ed Baldwin has gotten old and he's set in his ways, and Danielle, who's a little younger and has put up with his shit for 30 years, she's a strong black woman, and their relationship in season 4 is tested. And it's tested not because of race. It's tested because here are two people that have known each other and worked together and have a mutual admiration for one another, but one's being a dick. I'll say it. The Ed Baldwin Power Hour. Ed's being a dick, and Danny's calling him on it. And I have to say, Chris Marshall, who plays Danny, has the best fuck you. She wins best fuck you of the year. She tells Ed Baldwin to fuck off. She says, fuck you, Ed. Somebody needs to make a meme where she's just screaming, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. It's a fuck you for the ages. Thank you, Chris Marshall. God, I love your show. But anyway, so where are we going to go with Paramount is here's a great studio. It celebrated its 100th anniversary in 2024 or 2014. We're in the last 2 weeks of Warner Brothers and Disney's 100th anniversaries. Boy, did they screw the pooch on those. 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers, and wow, did you know it was that? We got a few movies. Why didn't they remaster something once a week? I don't know. But it was disappointing. But Paramount, if David Ellison was able to take control of Paramount, obviously he doesn't care about Nickelodeon or BET or MTV or whatever. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants a studio. But here's the thing. I believe that of all the moguls in Hollywood, I think David Ellison loves movies the most, clearly from the output and what they're making. And I would dare say, as much as I might go, well, Rob, didn't they make the Star Trek movies that J.J. Abrams directed? No one's perfect. They made a lot of great stuff. And I'm a big fan of Skydance. I'm a big fan of what David Ellison did. I think if he took over Paramount, it would be good. And I think if he took over Paramount, you wouldn't see Beverly Hills 4 AF opening on Netflix instead of movie theaters. And I think that's the way. And probably they would absorb, either Netflix would absorb Paramount or Paramount would absorb Netflix, or they would merge and create, Paramount Netflix, pretty cool. I'd be into that. And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But we'll see. We have to fight for our right to watch good movies. I bet you thought I was going to say something else. But that's what we want. What do we want? Good movies. When do we want them? Now. That's what we want. And The Rich Legacy. I got to tell you, I was watching Oppenheimer. That's a fucking great movie. It's people talking. And you're riveted. The acting in that film. I watch that and I marvel. I don't think Chris Nolan is a perfect filmmaker. There's always things I see that it's amazing for as meticulous as his filmmaking is. There's always weird details and things. I'm like, that would never happen. The cops in Dark Knight Rises would not be underground for 100 days. And if they are going to be down for 100 days, you got to explain it better, buddy. You really do. But he's a pretty great filmmaker. But anyway, kids, I just wanted to talk about what was going on at Paramount. By the way, is it Cyan or Sean? Sean Aguirre has been a member for 14 months. Thank you. Trent Holzman, he became a member. Trent. Let's drink to Trent, everyone. If you got drinks, take a drag. If you're smoking a bowl, if you got the dank nugs and you got the big glass. Oh, you know what I'm saying? I don't have one, so I'm faking it. But Joseph Michael says, No. Good evening, Rob. Have you had the chance to see Rebel Moon yet? I have not, but I'm going to do a Designing Hollywood. I'm going to be interviewing the costume designer and the production designer next week. They wanted me to do it this week. I'm like, I haven't seen the movie. I'm actually looking forward to it. I've heard mixed things, but I am, in fact, looking forward to it. I can't wait to see it. Stubble McShave says, I think the reason Apple TV has quality content is that it's primarily a marketing thing for Apple. I totally agree with you 100%. Apple, they can do whatever they want and write it off. That's why when people are like, well, Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon were so expensive and they didn't earn their money. Yeah, they did. Apple, if those movies are considered marketing, they can write off the whole budgets. So they're doing it for prestige. Apple, all of their shows, even the shows I think could be better, like Invasion, beautifully made. So Stubble, you're right. They're making shows because their primary business is not making content. I mean, they're stepping up. They're going to make more content in 2024, but they want to make stuff that is going to be played on their hardware. So I think that's what they're doing. Sure, they want to make a profit, but it's far more important to produce quality content. In that way, people associate the brand Apple with quality. Totally agree, Stubble. 100%. 100%. David Crabtree says, hey, Rob, what do you tell your bladder when it misbehaves? You're in trouble. Dude, come on. It's too late for that. You should be ashamed. No dad jokes. Not now. Not now. Although that's, you're in trouble. I haven't heard that. That's pretty funny. So, anyway, listen. Paramount, what's going on? It's crazy. Who's going to buy it? I don't know. But I wanted to do this. I want to talk about Paramount. And what better time than to bring back Midnight Metal and talk about something so boring and academic that has to do with stock prices. But at the end of the day, you're all imagination connoisseurs here. And what we want are great movies. And Paramount as a studio has a legacy. I mean, before it was Lucasfilm, but Paramount distributed the first 4 Indiana Jones movies. Transformers, but they don't own those, but still, I mean, they have a rich legacy, and I would like to see it continue. I don't want to see it to disappear. I mean, it seems like the 2000s have been full of mergers and acquisitions for our film companies, but we haven't got some great people that love cinema that have been entrenched in those companies to revolutionize the stories that we know and love. I mean, I've always said that filmmaking and cinema was the great art form of the 20th century. I don't think it holds the same status as it did in the mid-20th century, the early part in the mid to the late 20th century. I just don't think it does. I think it's been supplanted by video games. I think it's going to be supplanted even more. And they didn't anticipate this. They put all their eggs in the streaming basket. But the streaming services are only as good as what you feed them. And if you're not making movies for the right reasons, you don't have the things that the streaming services need to get more subscribers and to get more eyeballs on them. So, yeah, which is a bummer. And on that note, I'm going to end this interesting late night. Sorry for the technical difficulties at front. Midnight Metal. But I want to thank all of you for being here. I'll bring this back. This Midnight Metal show is usually crazy and alcohol-fueled, and I apologize that I didn't bring that back. But I will. I need Dave Parker for that. I need, the raucous attitude you know and love from us. Listen, you can send me letters to postgeeksingularity.com. Tomorrow I'm doing Let's Get Physical Media and all kinds of things. Listen to the Inglorious Trexperts podcasts. We're in the middle of our holiday episodes. Designing Hollywood's got some good stuff coming up. Of course, Robservations and all of that. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson for moderating. I want to thank everybody who generously supports this channel. Thank you so much. But most of all, happy holidays to everybody. However you identify across these 28 known galaxies, according to Superman the movie, which just celebrated its, 45th anniversary? My God. I was there opening day. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the channel. And I hope you have a happy holiday. And I'll be here broadcasting all holiday long. We're rolling into the Robservations 1000th episode, which will be 1,000 minutes long, which puts it 16 hours. There will be pre-recorded segments, but I'm going to do it, yo. I'm going to do it. It's going to be great. And on that note, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say to all of you, have a better night. And I mean that sincerely. And one more time, let's play this.
Hello, and welcome to Midnight Metal. Robert Meyer Burnett, fucking metal.